Okay, and we are recording. So welcome everyone. Welcome to our first collective Future Leaders Today navigation call. We will be talking all things blockchain and crypto and future economics, geopolitical stances, and everything post a CV world. CV for coronavirus, of course. So my name's Daniel, obviously you all know me anyway, but I've run events and I do online gigs and different things anyway. And normally I'd put a lot of slideshows and preparation and for this one, what I've chosen to do is rather than try and plan the hell out of it, I wanted to just get going because me and Christina had a chat about a week ago and said, look, a couple of weeks ago now, we were aware of a lot of information and there's a lot of people that aren't aware of a lot of information or have a lot of information and don't know how to make sense of it. So we said it would be really good for the people we know, people in our community, to just begin to disseminate it. So I started with Ollie a couple of weeks ago, last week. No, it was a couple of weeks ago actually, wasn't it?
Maybe.
Was it a week ago? Oh, it feels so long ago. And then Alex was asking some questions, and so I thought, right, well, it makes more sense to start to just open it up more, and that's where we've ended up here today. I do 2 shifts every day. I work during the day, and then I work at night researching everything that we'll be talking about on these calls. So I put a lot of personal time into these, and I want them to remain fun. I thoroughly enjoy the topics that we're discussing. Some of them can be a bit chunky, a bit in depth, but I am a person of the disposition that lean into all the pain, and at the other side is absolute liberation. So I do enjoy it. It's a little bit of a twisted enjoyment at times. Oh, hang on. And here we go. Some couple of late comers here. So we just have Deborah who's just joined us, and somewhere on my screen.
What does that tell us? Well, it tells us.
Oh, we got Bradley as well. Where's Deborah gone? Just going to say hello to these guys before we carry on. Deborah, can you hear us? Just want to make sure you're in. And Bradley, I know I could hear you a second ago. You're good. Do you want to put your camera on or leave it off?
I'm going to leave the camera off, thanks.
Leave your camera off, okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's totally cool. Totally cool. Can I just check, Bradley, are you Bradley who I just messaged, or a totally different Bradley?
Yeah, same one. Sorry, I'm just running upstairs.
Bradley from Truman Show, Bradley. TEDx Bradley.
Pardon, say that again?
Bradley from Truman Show TEDx, or?
No, Bradley's messaged me on WhatsApp.
Yeah, well, I also did a voice note to my friend called Bradley, so I didn't know which Bradley you were.
No, that's right. I'm friends with Alex, who's also in the call.
Right, okay. I'm trying to work out where the connection came from. I should have guessed when I looked at the image and it was a lot of lads aged about 20 years old. Obviously going to be Alex's friends. All right, Misha, hope you're good, darling. Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Hello there. Yes, I can hear you and you can hear me.
Fantastic. It's a very good job I don't have very loud headsets in.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm just making my. I'm also just making my my salad. So I'm just gonna be on mute listening in.
You do whatever you need to do. Don't you worry, honey. Okay. So I was just telling everyone there that this is an open call. It's an informal call. I don't have any PowerPoints created on purpose because I want to make sure that whatever we're discussing on the call is what people want to discuss. There is so much stuff going on. I don't want to be prescriptive on the calls necessarily, but I do want to keep them, I want to create some context and some loose boundaries because we can discuss anything that we want to discuss. But fundamentally, the purpose of them is to slowly just start to disseminate some of the different things that are occurring around the world that are going on right now. Some you might never heard of, some you may have heard of. I don't know. But there's a lot of changes going on. And it's just good that we just start to have a space where we can discuss it. whilst at the same time practicing sense making, which is a skill that is drastically needed in these times. So the call is recorded, and it's recorded so that there's other people that want access to the call afterwards, and I might cut some little bits out and just post it if we find it to be very valuable for other people as well. It's no holds barred. We can discuss whatever we want, but it will revolve around crypto, blockchain, finances, geopolitical, and the economy. So that's the general, which are ultimately the things that impact you every day. Just most of us don't really give a crap about them, but they are actually the things that define most of the stuff that's going on. So I've done a couple of calls with a couple of people on here already who've got a bit of an idea. So guides for Alex and for Oliver, like you, we might cover some old ground, but it's all good because understanding blockchain and understanding what's happening around the world financially is it's a coffee percolator. It just takes a little bit of time sometimes. What I will do for future calls is just ask if there is, for you to just write down any people, just the certain topics or aspects that you want to discuss of the most, because that way we're making sure that we're at least answering some people's calls. There are people that have just come on like this. I've been researching the stuff that we're talking about now for, I don't know, 4 to 6 hours a day for last year and a bit, and just really seeing everything come about that's happening around the world. Almost a little bit taken up at the speed at which it's happening as well. Jennifer, I'm just going to mute your mic. There we go. So there's tons of stuff I can kick off into, but is there anyone in particular that came on to ask a particular question or take us in a particular direction, or is particularly interested in an aspect of what is occurring in the wider scales of behind the scenes behind CV19? Just raise your hand if there are, and I will, or unmute yourself.
I mean, I've definitely got an interest in what you think about with Ripple and XRP.
Okay.
Yeah, just like to hear your opinions on it.
Okay, cool. Cheers, Bradley. Thank you for going first as well. Always takes someone to start the ball rolling. I'm going to have to backtrack a little bit because there could easily be people on here who have no idea of Ripple or XRP. So actually, I'll answer your question, Bradley, but before I do that, I'm just going to do a round robin. If everyone can spend 30 seconds just letting everybody know, roughly speaking, how little, how much, or how none at all you know about anything to do with cryptocurrency or the word blockchain. So let's just start with that. I'm just really curious. Alex?
So Brad was probably the first person to introduce me to cryptocurrency about a year ago, but my knowledge of cryptocurrency and blockchain is very minimal. I've done a little bit of research over the past week in terms of like what the uses of it are and how it works, but out of 10, I'd probably say, which is obviously relative, but I'd probably say 2 or 3.
Yeah, okay. Cool, thank you very much. Oliver?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I messaged you a couple of weeks ago looking into blockchain as a concept, and was continuously just getting blocked by content that was purely about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So my original premise was learning more about big data, Internet of all things, and blockchain, and the kind of convergence of those different developments. So with the use of some of the resources you pointed to, Sudan, I kind of learned more about blockchain being a concept which is basically a secure database system which is created by distributing ledgers to multiple people that all control, that all hold the same data, which is essentially a very secure way of storing and accounting for data being authentic. and cryptocurrency is a method of using the same database process, but obviously accounting for money or kind of some kind of currency. And then blockchain can be used for multiple other things, many other uses, which is, to me, is almost the more fascinating part of it.
And that's where we're getting into the Internet of Value side when you start looking at what blockchain can be used for.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Jen or Jennifer? I'll just check now. There we go. Can I just check? Are you Jennifer or Jen? I always forget.
Either, I don't mind. Jen's got fewer syllables, so you might as well just say that. It's quicker.
We have another 4-syllable person on this call as well who's been going through that. Okay, Jen, go on.
Virtually zero. I know they exist, but I don't know what they are, and I'm here to take my mind off the coronavirus with things.
Okay, fair enough. Are you interested in understanding them further?
Yes.
Or are you? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you for your honesty. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Cosmic Granny Deb.
Okay. A lot of what I do know has come through you, although I had some exposure to cryptos before. I've had some experience of buying crypto and losing money, and buying crypto and forgetting where it's stored, and all that stuff. And so yes, I've had a little exposure. The concept of blockchain, I feel really comfortable and happy with. I think it's brilliant. Wish we could introduce it more, and I can see lots of ways in which we could introduce it more. What am I interested in at the moment? I'm interested in the whole picture of where we're going in the global financial field. How inevitably there's a kind of selfish aspect of how do I look after what I've got? How do I take care of my family and my community? But there's also a kind of wider global, how the hell do any of us come through this in such a way that we can create the lives that we choose to create?
Brilliant. Okay.
And the warning, I will leave in about 15 minutes because I've got to go see my grandkids, but I'll hang in there till grandkids are ready, okay?
Okay, cool. Nice to hear your voice anyway.
Nice to see you.
Bradley and then Misha.
I mean, since 2017, I've been slowly sort of investing. I mean, at the time, obviously, when it was the big bull run, sort of portfolio grew quite substantially, but then fell pretty quickly. So since then, really, I've been interested in following various projects, but more recently, I think I've been leaning more towards XRP, hence why I sort of asked that question. My portfolio is sort of leading towards that quite heavily.
Okay.
But in terms of sort of investments wise, sorry, 1 second. Go away. My mum's walking in the room. Investments wise, sort of like looking into where I think it's going to go, but sort of, yeah, just following it, XRP closely, essentially. But I've got investments in sort of like XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, and they're the main ones, really.
Yeah. To answer your question in a very simple answer, I'm roughly speaking, I am 50% XRP, 30% Ethereum, 10% Link, and then the final 10% mixed with around 5 other coins. I hold an incredibly small amount of Bitcoin now. I used to be a big holder, but I'm not pro Bitcoin anymore for various reasons. I still think it'll have a good run, but it's not my hold for long term. So just at least that quickly answers your question, because I'm sure that gives you an idea of how bullish I am on XRP long term. I
mean, that's similar to me. I think it's probably about, I might even be 60% XRP, and then Ethereum's probably my next biggest holdings. But yeah, that's the reason I was sort of asking your opinion on XRP.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. We'll go through that. Thanks very much, Bradley. Misha?
Hey man, to be honest, I'm a little bit out of my depth. I don't really know what you're talking about too much. So I guess I'm just curious, and if it feels like this is not the right thing, I'll just not come the next time.
Yeah,
So
no, that's cool.
I just liked you, so I wanted to go on the
Zoom. There's definitely no there's no pre-agreed levels of what something's going to be. I mean, like for stuff like what Bradley's talking about, I mean, there's conversations I have with Bradley, you guys wouldn't have. There's conversations I have with Alex and Oliver. There's conversations I have with Jennifer and Misha. You know, they'd all be different. So we'll just see where we go with it. What I've found is even when I start relearning, going back through blockchain and understanding cryptocurrencies, it just adds strength and weight to viewpoints. So yeah, I think you'll get stuff out of it. And if we need more, if we need calls that are specifically more intro calls versus like really in-depth calls, then I'll just separate them out and you can join whichever call you want, because it is the absolute future of where we're going. And the more we all begin to understand that and get on the train, this is like the internet coming round again. So imagine trying to explain the internet to your great granddad and just wouldn't comprehend it, or be very difficult to. So we're in that space again. So I really want you to begin to understand it and not still be out of your depth in 6 months' time. Paulina, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, how are you?
Awesome, I'm good, thank you. We're just doing a dead quick 30-second round robin to understand how much, how little, or how not at all do you know anything about cryptocurrencies and blockchain?
I know quite a bit about blockchain, and I've dabbled in Bitcoin. I've actually got quite a bit of experience between not so much trading myself, but trading other people trading for me, which some of it went well and some of it went terribly, terribly wrong. So I have a mixed understanding. I have a good understanding, but mixed feelings about it. But I do own Bitcoin, and just watching the market at the moment.
Okay, and when you say mixed feelings, do you mean in terms of which one will appreciate, or mixed feelings on how it will impact society?
Neither. Mixed feelings more around the approach of increasing the value of my Bitcoin, or the amount of Bitcoin I have.
Oh, okay. Mixed feelings about should I put more money in, should I not? It's like, okay, so more from a trading perspective, mixed feelings about what to do next.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, all right, brilliant. Thank you for that, Pauline. I'm just going to mute you. Okay, so like it goes without saying, I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I talk about is financial advice whatsoever. Please do your own research all the time. I spend a lot of time doing research, and even where I get to my research, it's only from their research, and they've done their research and someone else's research. Like, so it's difficult sometimes to get to the front and really get raw information. But there's a lot of communities online that are really pulling stuff together. So I'm doing my bit in that community to reach people who may not even know where to begin to reach out to. And that was the beginning purpose of having this call. Over the course of time, like stuff that Paulina was talking about, like where to put money next and everything, will probably become evident, and we can maybe talk about it further. But the majority of the people that are on this call, just for now, are just more interested, it would appear, in the general workings of things and how everything fits in. So Bradley, it may be useful for yourself, it might not be. I'm happy to do other calls, or maybe you just stay on because it's you find it useful. Anyone's welcome to leave whenever they want. There are no rules to this game other than trying to make sure that everyone that stays leaves with a better understanding of all the shit that's happening everywhere. Okay, so I will begin with my opinion on something because it forms the basis for why I started this group. On this call, I'm absolutely not getting into anything deeply to do with coronavirus, where it came from, who started it, why it's here, everything like that. What it is doesn't matter. What we do know from some of the greatest traders that publicly go out there and speak is every single time there's huge changes in financial structures and finances in general, there is a really big thing happening in the world that takes full coverage in people's attention. It could be coincidence, it cannot be coincidence, it doesn't matter. The fact is that right now around the world, the only thing most people are talking about, most people being just 100 people asked on the street, is around CV19. If you're into money and finance, you might be aware of market crashes. If you're trading a little bit, Paulina's aware that Bitcoin price probably has just risen. And so she might be wondering, do I put my money in? And most people will probably just link all of this movement of money and dropping of money to the fact that we have this global issue and pandemic around CV, which is a perfectly understandable link. It is my opinion and many other people's opinions that actually what's happening is a huge shift in financial structure, like the greatest shift that we've ever seen. And it's happening coincidentally at the same time as we have this huge outbreak. And so it's a very good time to just be looking at things with a different lens. The biggest lens to look at is that we're going to move from a cash society and a normal fiat-based society, just everything you're aware of with money, into a digital society. And I don't mean digital whereby you log onto your bank and send some money to Bob, and Bob gets money. You can say, well, that's already digital. It's the process within which it takes place and how that happens. That's what's going to change. And you may or may not see a necessary shift when you go on your bank and you look at something. But from a financial structure perspective, it's massive. And what will underpin all of that is blockchain. That is the thing. That's what everyone's talking about. That's which company is a big conversation, but it absolutely will be blockchain that will underpin it all. And it's blockchain that will provide the financial structure that we will probably see, my opinion, this year. If you don't see it this year, we'll see it next year, but it's incredibly highly likely it'll be this year, and it's incredibly highly likely it's happening right now. And there is a heavy potential that it's happening this weekend. I didn't plan this call to be this weekend, but there are a lot of dates and a lot of things around this weekend that have been on this weekend for a long time. So Misha doesn't know blockchain. Jennifer didn't. The rest of you've got a good enough understanding of it. So just for Jen and for Misha, if you think about it like this, if I wanted to send something, if me and Ollie had a load of stock, then I'd have a stock list, and I'd have on this stock list 60 items. And I might not own all those items. Some of them might be owned by Jen, some of them are owned by Deb, some of them are owned by Misha, some are owned by Alex, but I've got a list right here. If I want to send some of those things to Oliver, then I've got to send them by whatever means. But then Oliver's got his own list. He has to update the list to say that he now has the widgets and they're owned by Jen. I have to update my list to say that Jen's widgets are now with Oliver. And if Oliver moved them and someone else moved them, then I received them. You can imagine that all of these transactions that take place from financial perspectives are all recorded. We've got high legislation. There's a lot of work that takes place to do that. They're effectively called ledgers. They're records of information. And at any single point, I should be able to get mine, and Ollie should be able to get his. Ollie, yours is going to be represented by this 70% chocolate right here. Oh no, Ollie's got his. Perfect. So Ollie's got his. And then what we do is, every now and again, we'd go, okay, according to me, widget number 6, which is owned by Alex, you've got that. And Ollie would say, because Ollie's got it. Perfect. That was Ollie putting his thumbs up in case you can only see me on the screen right now. And then Ollie would say something like, oh, I gave you Deborah's widget 7. You've got that. And I'd say, yeah, I've got that. I've got a record over here. Oh, actually, I don't have it. I gave it to someone over there. So you can imagine this constant checking. So the easiest way that I find to understand blockchain is that instead of that happening, instead what we have is this. If we were to imagine that everyone that's on this call in the old school world had a ledger like this, what happens is as soon as I send a piece of information to, someone in, as soon as I send a piece of information across to Oliver, in that single moment, everyone on this call who has their own ledger has it updated, that it spans out in seconds to cover every single person's ledger. So at any single point, we all have an exact carbon copy of the whole ledger. So even if I send something to Oliver, it's copied on Deborah's ledger, Alex's, Misha's, Paulina's, Jen's, everyone's. And this is a huge change away, because it means that at any single point, it's fully recorded. Because I can't, if it was just me and Oliver, if me and Oliver wanted to do a deal, we might go, do you know what? We said that Deborah owned them, but let's scrub that out and let's say that Paulina owns them. And if you do it and I do it, if our ledgers match up, then in that moment we just fiddled it, and Paulina's got it now. But with what we call a distributed ledger, which is what blockchain is, it's information distributed. In that single moment that transaction takes place, everybody has a copy of it, and everybody knows that it's true. And if I try and fake it and Oliver tries to fake it, everyone else will say, no, that's not real. And so this is why they refer to blockchain as transparent. This is why they refer to it as, it's not infallible, but it's very hard to fake. To fake it, you effectively have to change 51% of all of the ledgers, and there's millions of different ledgers that would be affected in that single moment. So before I go any further, Jen or Misha, whichever one is available and not cooking at this moment, I'm curious if that makes sense to having never heard it before, because I want to at least cover that before we go any further.
It makes a bit of sense. I'm just not sure what context it would be used in.
Well, let's take money. Money is so blockchain is a piece of technology, but when we apply blockchain, we call that a use case. So how can it be used? And then and the more a blockchain has a use case, the more people will throw money at it. And the number one biggest thing that moves around the world right now is money. And that process I just told you about is how money moves. I mean, it's even slower than that. Let's say I'm in England and I want to send some money to, let's just to say, like, I don't know, say I'm in India and I want to send some money to Lithuania. If I'm in India and if Alex is in Lithuania, if me and him don't have a relationship, I can't send him money. But I know that Bradley has a relationship with Alex and I have a relationship with Bradley. And so Bradley will act as an intermediary. And so I have to send the money to Bradley. Bradley has to send the money to Alex. Once Alex got it, he tells Bradley. Once Bradley knows Alex got it, he tells me. And that can take up to 3 days. And if you send international money, or if you've ever done payments internationally, you might have heard the word SWIFT. I don't know, Misha, if you've ever used SWIFT when you're sending money abroad or anything like that. But the whole process takes 3 to 5 days. And it's pretty scary, because at some point you're like, you've sent your money, you're just waiting. Like, as a consumer, I've got no idea where my money's gone. And then after 5 days, if you haven't got it, you start sending messages and emails, because sometimes it has to hop multiple banks to get there. So we can, right now, I mean, a couple of clicks of a button, I sent information to you guys, you clicked on a link, you're on here, we're speaking. We live in a world of instant communication to send information. But when it comes to settlement, when it comes to the ability to know that the thing that I've sent has been received, it can take days. So the application of blockchain in finance is huge, absolutely massive. And I'll give you one other one that might be more relevant. If let's take a contract. If I want to buy a house, then I need an estate agent. I might need a solicitor to conduct the process, and I need a buyer, of course. The reason I need a solicitor is because he has to draw up a contract that's legal and within law, so that then he does all the paperwork, so that when I sell my house to Deborah, and she says, okay, I'll give you 100 grand. I have to wait for her to give 100 grand to the solicitor. I effectively, like, almost hand over the contract to the solicitor. So there's a point in time where the solicitor has everything. He has the deeds to the house, which is the value, and he has the 100 grand that's been given. The solicitor then passes them across, and he gives me the 100 grand, and he gives Deborah the house. And how long does it take to, Oliver's in property with your hands, Oliver, roughly speaking, how long does it take to transact the purchase of a house in weeks?
Yeah, 4 weeks, something like that. Yeah, if you're doing well, if you're doing very
well. If you're doing well, 4 weeks. Like,
is the kind of the super speedy transaction.
Yeah, so 6 to 8 weeks. And there's some reasons for that. But one of the big holdups, and anyone that's bought and sold any house will tell you the biggest holdup is always solicitors. Trying to find a good solicitor that can work at speeds, because they have one. I'm not knocking solicitors at all, but that's just the way it is. So imagine a blockchain contract. So imagine a property contract, and imagine that this contract, I can send this contract to Deborah. She reads the contract. I read the contract. She digitally signs it. I digitally sign it. And in that moment, built into this contract, and it can be a bit abstract to think is this, but built into the contract's not just a piece of paper. It's more like if you have an iPhone, I think Androids do it as well. You can create shortcuts. So you can build a shortcut to say, when I press this button, open train line, find me the next train from Stockport to London between these times. And I can just hit that button and it'll go boom, 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 boom. And they call that if this, if that, then this. So imagine built into this contract, the ability for me to say, right, it's 100 grand, it's for this house. And when I sign it and she signs it, boom. In that single moment, I've received the money, and whoever's bought the house has received the house. That's massive. That's massive shifts and change. So, so 2 examples there, Misha. Does that help to understand how blockchain could completely transform?
Yes, it does.
Stuff. It does. Yeah, it can take a while to get your head around blockchain. It really can. But the more you do it, the more you start to see that it's not just a weird thing. And I'm going to work backwards and just explain the internet. Before I do that, I just want to say hello to Freddie.
Hello.
Hello, Freddie. I hope you're well.
I am.
And you missed that earlier then, but I'm just checking. What's your knowledge on blockchain and cryptocurrencies?
None.
Okay, so when you watch this call back, that last little bit explained it all, but I'm going to do another analogy in a different way now. So you'll just have to pick it up as we go along. It's the easiest way to learn about crypto and blockchain is just like a coffee percolator. Let it drop and just keep learning. Okay?
Yep.
Cool. James, your thing says connecting to audio. If you can hear me, the bottom left of your phone or the bottom left of your computer, there'll be a microphone button, but it might have a different symbol. If you press that, it's going to flag up and say, how do you want to connect? If you say connect using computer, you'll be able to talk to us. I'm assuming you can hear us. I hope so. Send me a text if you're really struggling, bro. I'll keep my WhatsApp some down here. No response yet. Okay, so the other analogy for Misha and for Jen and for Freddie is this. If you go back to the year 2000, Google was about 2 or 3 years old. Like in the mid-90s, the internet, as far as we know it, as far as we see it, kind of started to come out. And no one had a clue what to do with it. No one had any clue what to do with it. They just knew that, I mean, there's a really cool video of Bill Gates trying to explain Panorama video. Trying to explain to someone from Panorama, BBC, a BBC kind of like where the future is going from, I think it's 1994. Bill Gates explains the internet. We'll have to find it. I might send a link to it afterwards because it's really interesting. You've got this Panorama guy, and Bill Gates is sat in front of an old CRT monitor that's really deep like that. And this Panorama guy is like, so this internet, like, tell me more about it. And Bill Gates is there with like his big glasses, and he says, so what we'll do is we'll be able to look at information on a screen, and then if you like that information, you'll be able to click a button and you'll be able to buy it. And he's like, well, yeah, but what are people going to buy? He's like, well, they'll buy shoes. And he said, why would someone buy like shoes and clothes from the internet? He's like, because we'll make it really convenient. And he said, but how will the money get sent? And he's like, well, we'll create a way for you to put your details in, and then you'll send money to people electronically. You've got to remember that back then, people went into banks. If you wanted to send money, you walked into a bank. That was it. And this Panorama guy's like, so I'm going to put some details on this internet, and then someone will send me something. Yeah, and he went, well, how will I trust them? This was the key. Like, if I give that person money, how do I know they're going to send it back? And he said, we'll work all that out. So the whole thing's really interesting to just see how Bill Gates is trying to explain this thing called the internet. And this big guy from BBC Panorama just he can't grasp it. And we're a bit like that with blockchain. And that was only 20 years ago. So it's all about trust. If I have a contract, the reason we have middlemen now, like solicitors, is purely to allow something to transact. And the middleman here says, you trust me and you trust me, but you don't trust each other. So you give everything to me, and we go like that. If you've got that trust built into technology, that the minute it transacts is replicated across every other ledger, so it cannot be voided, it can't be fraudulented, that's a word, instantaneously or nearly instantaneously. You can start to see how we would process a lot of things differently. I mean, the amount of contracts that move around the world is astronomical. I think $63 trillion moves around the world every second, with another God knows how many trillions locked up in accounts to be used to make the money move. And that's what they call liquidity. Or they do that to keep liquidity, which is the big issues why most economies dry out. So this whole concept and idea of how blockchain works and how it can be applied as a use case is massive. And we're only scratching the surface today, because the solutions that we will create in the next 5 years, we haven't even thought of. Just like right now, no one imagined in 1994 that we'd all be sat here clicking buttons, joining Zoom calls and talking to each other. I remember my mum going on a Skype call with my auntie in Canada and couldn't get her head around the fact nobody had to pay. She couldn't grasp that. So we're in this space now where the solutions that we'll have for blockchain moving forward will literally change the face of a lot of industries. Some are really obvious, like solicitors, contracts, lawyers, keeping records. Like, for example, it's not my thing, but imagine if you went and bought a Gucci handbag off eBay, secondhand. How do you know it's real? Well, you don't, unless you really know your stuff. But then the quality of some of the fakes is that good that you could still have a fake. Well, imagine if, what's going to have a QR code on? You've all seen those little QR codes, yeah? I'm going to guess thumbs up. You know what a QR code is? That the little, I'll just do it anyway because I don't want to take for granted that people don't know. This is your QR codes. So imagine having one of these embedded into a Gucci handbag. Now you might not even see it. It could be NFT, near field technology. So it's actually like underneath the skin of the fabric. So all you have to do is pick up your phone and open up the Gucci app or whatever app is in question, hold the phone up to the bag, and immediately it will tell you if it's genuine. And it can't be faked, because for someone to make one of these and put it on the network, all the rest of the network would say that's not genuine, that's not real. And so you've got absolute transparency going all across the world immediately in almost seconds, so that if you're a manufacturer of something, you can authenticate something immediately, which has massive implications for a lot of industries, not just. I've got a piece of artwork upstairs by James Roper, a friend of mine, and he's one of the first people to put his art on the blockchain, so that piece of artwork, if I sell it, someone can open up one of the specifically made for the art industry to verify the artwork is legitimate. And to verify something, you need a public key, which is about this long. It's not a key, it's a series of numbers and letters. Imagine like a very secure password, but about this long. And you need a private key. And so to put something on the ledger, to get it on here, this ledger might have a public key. So I can publicly send something to it, but then the ledger is going to say, okay, I've got it. You want to put this on the ledger. I need the private key to unlock the ledger to put it on. And it's the private key that makes the ledger secure. So if you are Gucci and you have or you are the company that creates a blockchain technology to verify artwork, each person that comes on here, I'm Gucci and I'm a user, just like I'm a user for Facebook. I have a set of username and passwords. Public key, private key is the term we use on blockchain. And if I have the private key, I can put it on there, and immediately that's verified. So all of the applications for where blockchain will really start to make a difference on this earth we're just about scratching the surface. And they're three of the verification, contracts, and money are three of the biggest markets out there. Misha, are you okay to respond to that? I'm curious on your thoughts.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it sounds quite positive in a way. Like, I mean, and then, I mean, it makes me wonder about people losing their jobs, or like the solicitor that you were talking about in the middle, who would have had all of that to do. You know, is going to be losing his job. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll talk about that briefly. People have lost their jobs for centuries, absolutely centuries, and there is so much highlight. You know, the universe is not static. We live in a state of impermanence. Everything's changing all the time. We've become so addicted to what we do that we think it defines us, and we see a new thing coming about, and we're like, well, if this comes about, it's going to destroy that. Well, that's been happening for generations. Like, once of a day, I'm just going to give some context to this. And I'm pretty certain nobody is old enough to remember this. Let's see if I can find an old one. Will it lift this man? Here we go. Let me share my screen. So once of a day, we had lots of these people. These are lift attendants. And their job was to open and close the door and press the button. And they were around for a long time. And the reason we had lift attendants is because people were scared, and you had to literally, like the first lifts, you'd literally press a button and the lift would start to move, and you'd press a button and the lift would stop. So you had to make sure that the lifts lined up. You had to make sure that you opened and shut the doors for safety. You didn't want someone's arm sticking through the, you don't want someone's arm sticking through the doorway, I suppose, as it's going up. But then as lifts got smarter, these people went away. Now, we had thousands of lift operators across all sorts of countries. Before we had 1492 was when the first printing press came about. And that's what is referred to as the Renaissance. One of the reasons we had a Renaissance was because we were able to reprint information very fast. Prior to the Renaissance, it took 32 cowhides or 46 sheepskins to produce one copy of the Bible. And it took approximately it took more than a year. I can't remember the exact number, but I know it's quite a while. It's more than a year. When the printing press came about, we could reproduce a book in 3 weeks. So what took a scribe more than a year to do, all of a sudden took 3 weeks, which is 52. Let's just say it was a year divided by 3. That means now in 1 year, one person can reproduce 17 books. That's a 1,700% return. So you think about how many scribes lost their jobs. But yet, I don't think any of us would want to go back to a time where we didn't have the ability to copy information so readily, because of that revolution, because of the evolution of that printing press, we are able to have access to an abundance of information now through books. And the internet brought about a whole nother revolution when it comes to information. And we're about to go through that again, but this time we will heavily mitigate corruption, lying, will increase in trust. All of a sudden, so many of the barriers to society that have meant we've kind of gone like this. Or how do I know I can trust you? Because there's so much distrust in the world. Suddenly will get removed and people will be able to learn how to communicate again. I'm not saying it's going to solve everything and create world peace overnight, but money and ownership of things has an unhealthy attachment at the minute. And as soon as we become more fluid with it, yeah, we'll be able to operate much better. So it's not about the solicitors losing the jobs. Really, the question should be, what's the future hold? Because here's what I know. What we are doing today is not, see you later, Paulina. What we're doing today is not working. Unless all of you can tell me in your worlds that the world you live in are wholesome, full of love and vibrancy and abundance, and everyone's got everything they need, it's not working. So to hold the view that we've got to carry on doing what we're doing is a zero-sum game. But we can easily be attached to certain things like jobs. But actually, and this is my view, like, what if we never had to work again? And I'm not going to talk about universal basic income now, but I'm a massive proponent of universal basic income. When I moved away from running my business and working loads of hours, I just assumed I had to keep working 8 to 10 hours a day. And I was realizing, who invented that? Like, why do we even need? It's not what will the solicitors do if they don't have a job. It's what will humanity do if it doesn't have to work as much? And they still have to keep money flowing. Universal basic income is like handing everyone a sum of money every month or every week to spend. And as long as everyone keeps spending money and people make things, then we'll forever keep being able to have an economy. So there will be a lot of people that will lose jobs, just like there have been through every single decade. However, what will be created will be worth far more than what we lost. Freddie, you took yourself off mute. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just fiddling around. No, I'm listening.
Okay, that's cool. No worries. I'm gonna put you back on mute if that's okay.
Okay.
Cool. Misha, does that help with I totally get the job question. It comes up all the time. People are like, oh, new technology will get rid of jobs. It will do, yeah. Just like horses, cars got rid of carriage drivers. Like we constantly move forward, and in that process of moving forward, things evolve and things change. But I'd rather have a future where kids are creative and draw and paint and do art and drama than a future where everyone has to keep working or there's more and more solicitors needed. Again, no offense to any solicitor at all, but if every industry could cease to be and humanity could just enjoy itself with more abundance, I'm pro that future.
Yeah, me too, man. Sounds exciting.
Cool. Everyone, okay, so everyone, we're all pro future where everyone gets to have more creativity and fun, it would seem. Yeah. All right, good. But the media, which is where most people react from, don't have these conversations. It's very easy to point fingers at new technology and say, you know, what's everyone going to do? Because right now we have a lot of a generation that just aren't involved in blockchain. So we're going through a massive shift. It is literally like the internet. It's big. This is bigger than the internet. I can't. And every week I realize how big this is. It's so big, and I'm still percolating and coffee dripping. And I'm like, oh my God, it's profoundly deep. But at the same time, it's like trying to explain your internet to your great granddad. You don't even know where to begin. Oh, they look at a screen. What's a screen? Oh, it shows you information from around the world. Okay, where's it stored? In the screen? No. Well, where did you get the information from? Other places. Well, how does it travel? Like, there's just everything you answer with opens up new questions. And so with blockchain, I'm trying to talk about it and understand it when some of our greatest thinkers haven't even worked out how to apply it yet. Other than the examples I've given you, it's really on this verge. And time is it 9:45, so I'll do 20 more minutes. So to bring it back around to when I said we're going through the greatest transformation we've ever seen in history and finance, is that we are moving to a cashless society for many reasons. Some of them you'll like, and some of people will be like, oh, they can't do that to us. They can, and they will. And it's happening, whether you like it or not. And there's huge benefits to it as well. Imagine a government. Imagine this, Misha, because I know a little bit of your persuasion of stuff. Imagine a government where every single penny it spends is available for the public to see and cannot be falsified or hidden. Just imagine that. So like in America right now, every year, they have something called the black budget or the black deficit. And I know when Clinton went in, it was at 13 trillion. So $13 trillion is unaccountable. We don't know where it is. It basically means I'm in the government and I look at my ledger and I say, okay, so I've given you 23 trillion. Oliver, how much have you got? And Oliver says 13. No, he says 10. And I'm like, oh, you're missing 13 trillion. He's like, yeah, I don't have it. Well, where did it go? I don't know. And to give you an idea of the difference between a million, a billion, and a trillion, million and trillion is, because I always find this really interesting, we throw these numbers around. Okay, here we go. So if it's easier to think about money in seconds. If a million seconds is 12 days, so imagine 12 days ago was a million seconds, yeah? And I'll give you 10 seconds, guys, to unmute whoever wants to answer this. Roughly speaking, if a million seconds is 12 days ago, How long ago was a billion seconds? Pot guess. Alex.
A month.
Oh, Alex, what you saying?
A month.
Ollie?
Yeah.
Okay, you're both wrong. 31 years.
Fair enough. I was closer.
So when you think about £1 million and £1 billion, we're talking 12 days and 31 years. Okay, so how far away, how long ago was 1 trillion seconds? 31,688 years. That's 1 trillion seconds. So we talk in the media about trillionaires and the deficit of how much money we owe and everything. People have got no idea how big 1 billion is and how big 1 trillion is. It is massive. So when 13 trillion goes missing, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So having a government where when it collects its taxes, all paid digitally through blockchain, and we can see how much was collected, and then it spends its money, and it says, oh, we gave 10 million to the NHS. You can actually track that, and somebody would. So there'll be people who will watch the government like a hawk, because that's what they'll do. So this movement away from the cash society that we've got onto a digital society, onto a blockchain society, will be very transparent. It doesn't mean how far they'll take it. I don't know, but it is going to happen so that they can have full, much more control. Try not to be fearful of that word control, but we will be moving away from cash. So businesses, I'm telling any businesses now, if you're not taking digital payments today, you may heavily not be here at the end of the year. What's happening right now with CV19 is shaking everybody. And they call it shaking. That's what they do in stocks. Like they'll shake the weak people out. They're going to shake the businesses out that are reliant on cash. I'm not saying it was designed for that at all, but that's what's going to happen. So if you know anybody that's got a business and doesn't accept card payments, they will not be here by the end of the year, period. Because they will not know how to. They're already burning cash. Like I think it's very convenient that with this CV19 that it's carrying disease and they're burning cash, and eventually they'll reach a point where the people, me and you, will be like, hey, oh, I don't want to catch the virus. Well, I don't. Well, the government will say, hey, well, if we just go digital, then you'll all be okay, and there'll be a big uproar. But people will be like, no, it's for the best. Think about the children, and you will be digital before you know it. And that digital that we will be be built on blockchain, because it has to be instantaneous and cheap. And right now, to take a card payment, I think it's about 30p. Using blockchain technology, it will be it'll be a penny. So everybody will be able to take card payments if they wish, but they'll be left behind if they do not. And that's the message I'm trying to get out there. People have to wake up to this. If you're sat on a shitload of cash, we'll do this on another call, but the value of that cash could be worth a lot less by the end of this year.
So when you say cash, you mean digital cash as well as pound notes cash?
Well, let's separate them. You've got cash, you've got digital cash, and then you'll have what they call e-money. And think about e-money as blockchain money. So I'm unsure. You asked a question in the group earlier on, Ollie. I never answered it. You said what are the narratives? I've been explaining to people that there's a. If you think about it like this, we've seen enough films. We are living inside a film right now, and I'm trying to work out which film we're in. But rather than trying to work out what film we're in, I decided to just get clear on what I do know, or what I do strongly think, and what I'm choosing to make my decisions based on. Number one, we are moving to a future where blockchain dominates the way in which we transact information. That is absolute, and it definitely is going to happen with money. Number two, I strongly think I'm in the high 90s And the only reason I'm not 100% is because I like to keep an element of questioning something, that we will be moving to a gold-backed currency. We are not on a gold-backed currency now, and it's unlikely that I have the time to fully discuss that, but we came off that after the war. We're not on a gold-backed currency. We're long overdue a correction to go back to one. So the future will be a blockchain future. The future will be a gold-backed future, and that all of that's taking place right now, coincidentally or not, whilst we have the CV virus and no one's talking about it, and there will be a period of time that's difficult. There are three things that I'm fairly confident in all of those, especially I'm 100% confident in the blockchain. What I'm not sure on is whether or not the whole thing is for our highest and greatest good of everybody, or whether or not it's a little bit more dystopian and a little bit more control and not in everyone's highest and greatest interest. I don't know yet. I could spend hours trying to research these, but the fact is, I may never find an answer in this period of time I'm in right now. And there's no point me getting caught up in them because I'll never find an answer. So it's more important in my world to kind of decide, okay, so what do I know and what can I do? Because Ollie's question was talking about, will the value be less? You were like, will the value of cash be less? Like cash or cash in the bank. One of those futures that plays out to the tune whereby the money that we own is worth less money. Take Zimbabwe as an example, Germany after the war, Venezuela, and I'm sure countless other countries where literally overnight the value of their note was worth less money. So today I hold a note in my hand and it's £10 and I can buy 5 big bars of chocolate with it. Tomorrow I go to the shop with the same note and I can only buy 3 bars of chocolate with it. So in that moment, I just lost some value. This thing that I held, this note, has less value now. And in America, they are printing a lot of money right now. They're printing they released 1.5 trillion on Sunday. Bear in mind, it's Thursday. They normally disseminate that over the course of time. They have already disseminated it by Tuesday, and they're now choosing to print 1 trillion every day. Every day. Remember, a trillion is 31,000 years ago. That's a lot of money. And that should be devaluing everything. But it's not. The price of the dollar is going up. It's very weird. And Britain's printing money as well. So whether or not these futures play out is irrelevant. The value of the money that you own, whether it's in a bank or in cash, is worth less. Not worthless. It's worth less money. Does that answer your question, Ollie?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm trying to work out the logic between the quantitative easing, the creation of the funds, and how the value of the money is not going down. So is that linked to the fact that debt is also, or credit, one side of the same thing, is being removed at the same time, which is kind of balancing it out at the same time?
No, there shouldn't be. This is the side of the finances where I've got less experience, but I speak to a lot of people who have a lot of experience. And I can tell you this, the people that I go to who eat, live and breathe this stuff, it doesn't make sense. Every time you, what they call quantitative easing, printing money, every time you do that, you're taking a finite supply of money and you're making more of that money, which means the value of it goes down. That's what happens with, second.
But the value of it goes down only if if it's done properly, the debt that is being removed, so the debt money, the credit in the system is also being removed at the same time as money is created, which is creating more.
Are you not talking about inflation there? Are you talking about quantitative easing?
But the quantitative easing is the creation of the money, and then the kind of the removal of the debt that's in the system, the debt money, the money that is available through debt. So for example, writing off existing loans or restructuring, reducing interest rates that have already been defined. So the changing of the terms, that then removes money from the system, and when money is being put into the system, it keeps the money available at the same quantity, which stops deflation or stops inflation from creating, whichever way you look at it.
That makes sense what you're saying, but that's not my understanding when it comes to what they're doing right now. Because right now they're injecting money in, because at the same time, like in America right now, they've asked every single government, every single large company to exhaust its credit lines, which means at the same time as printing money, all these companies are going to the banks and saying, give me every single little piece of debt you can. And right now in America, are you aware of the fractional reserve?
To some extent.
So the fractional reserve, if I had a 1-to-1 fractional reserve, that would mean for every £1 in the bank, I can lend £1. It's nice. And that's how you stop things going bust. If you can't pay me, that's okay. I've got the money here. If we had a 50% fractional reserve, for every £1 in the bank, I can lend out £2. If we had a 10% fractional reserve, for every £1 in the bank, I can lend out 100 quid. Yeah. So we've gone from a 1-to-1, which is basically gold backed, where there's value. We've gone from that on a sliding scale down, and every time they do quantitative easing, this is what they've been doing since 1940s. And this is where I'm wondering if somewhere between what I'm talking about now and what you're talking about, where they've pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. They released a statement Monday, I think. Let's see if I can find it for you. They released a statement which basically said that there's no longer a fraction, which basically means that you can print as much as a bank. You can lend and loan and give out as much money as you want without having any money in the bank, which means if someone comes along and says, hey, can I borrow some money? You don't have to check your credit to debt ratio. You can just say, yeah, Chris, how much do you want? Yep, cool, off you go. So not only is the US government printing money and putting it into the system, but the banks are also able to do exactly the same as well. Is that it? Oh, no, it's not. I might struggle to. I've slowly been compiling more of my documents so that it's easier for me to find for people. Okay, I'm not going to be able to find it. So they brought that in on Monday. And obviously the Bank of England just reduced the interest rate today as well. I've only just found that out a couple of hours ago, actually. I'll do some more digging on understanding where quantitative easing works, how it works. Well, sorry, how they do it to make it work and how that differs from what they do. Because I know that that's not what's happening now. But I want to be able to answer your question with a lot more of my own understanding. But like as I said at the beginning, it's at the upper end of a section of this that I don't spend much time in. But I will find out for you. So I want to make sure I leave on something here that's really supportive and empowering and positive for everybody, because it's easy at any single point to get caught up in the drama. Look, it's easy to look around and get caught up in all this CV stuff. Honestly, so long as you're safe and so long as you can look after yourself and the people around you, CV is it's It's a thing. It will come and it will pass. And just like anything in society, that things can happen and people will die, and that's never good ever. But at the same time, there's other things going on, and it's just about taking a head up sometimes and just having awareness to what's going on around the world. Because if you don't, you'll wake up one day and the world will be a very different place. And in 2008 crash, some of the greatest wealth that was ever created was created during that time. At the same time, a lot of people lost a lot as well, which is why the more awareness you can have, and it doesn't matter if you're not a person who invests today, there are things you can do right now to put yourself in a position so that in 5, 6, 7 years, you will reap those benefits very, very well. And if I could leave all of you with one nugget, it would be to see blockchain and to see cryptocurrency as a positive, here to stay future. The media will not talk about it in this light. Bitcoin is the fear of God, don't invest your money into it. I'm not saying invest your money into crypto, and I'm very open, as I said with Bradley at the beginning, where I invest my money, and I will always be open with it. But you could put £10 into XRP today, or you could put £10 into XRP in Ethereum today, and there is a potential, dependent on what like, it could be worth a lot of money. You're talking anywhere from 10,000 up to 100,000. Some people even say more in years to come, for other reasons I'll get onto in the future on other calls. The point is, it is here to stay. It's not even just here to stay. It is the future. Imagine we're in 1994 and you're all run businesses, and I'm telling you now, get a website. Get one. Or imagine we're in 2010 and Facebook's like a couple of years old. And I'm like, look, guys, if you go on your, and I'm saying, if you go on your, if you go online now, go on social media now, be in that position where you want to be. And by 2020, you'll totally dominate the internet. Imagine if you were one of the first people to go on YouTube. I forget what that guy's name was, and started making videos. Like you'd be in a completely different position. And so that's the thing I want to leave you all with, is having a real understanding that what's going on out there right now is to be considered a friend. It's to look at it and go, okay, I see you. I don't really understand you, but I see you, and I see you enough to know that in 5 years' time, it's going to be normal. And it'll be normal faster than it took the internet to get normal, because we're moving exponentially and we can take on board new ideas faster and faster. And I don't want anybody on this call to suddenly be like, oh, I don't really do that blockchain thing. Like, at any single point, you can leapfrog a period of technology. You don't have to catch up. You can go, actually, I missed this period of life to do with tech, but you can just leapfrog and just get straight into it here. And the quicker and the sooner you do, even if that is putting 10, 20, 100 quid into some coins, it could seriously be a massive benefit to your life in years to come. That's what I want to leave you with. We're not going to go into how to do it, but I want to make sure that that you see that as a really big benefit and value. So we will leave it there. I'm going to go around everyone before we go and just ask for a couple of words on how you feel from it and what you took from it, and what you would love to hear more on for the next call. So we'll go in the order that we started. So we're going to begin with Alexander. I find you. Alex?
Hello.
Cool.
So just a couple of words.
Well, just, got a minute. Just kind of like what you took from it, what you really enjoyed, and what you'd like to know more about.
I think it was a really clear explanation. I think the examples that you used around the capabilities of blockchain really opened my eyes up to it being used not just as a money transferring tool, but in different lights as well. And what I took from it was the importance of the blockchain, in relation to the next 5-10 years. Just comparing it to the internet, for example, 5 years. Just comparing it to the internet.
I was speaking to Christina. Sorry.
5 years. Yeah. So yeah, the importance of blockchain, and then what I'd like to understand more on the next call would be probably just a little bit more about the coins themselves, and more about which coins are going to be the dominant coins. I know I've done a little bit of research into XRP, so I know that a lot of the big banks are investing into that coin, but what does that mean for the other coins? And as you mentioned, something's happening soon. You said something might happen this weekend. Like, when is a good time to buy coins, and like how do you observe the market? What tools do you use to do that?
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Alex. I will say this honestly: the best time to buy any coins is right now, and I would say that regardless of anything. But I actually mean the best time to buy coins is actually right now, because they're so low. Because we're talking about gains in the next 5-10 years that are nothing. It's like me saying, do you want to buy the Ferrari for 20 quid or 25 quid? It's worth 100 grand. Obviously, you'd rather buy it for 20 quid, but in the grand schemes of things, it doesn't really matter. So the best time is to buy coins is now, because they will rise. There will be a peak, and then they'll drop again. Everything goes up, everything goes down. We're at the bottom of an up. And you could argue, are we at the bottom of the bottom? Are we near the bottom? But we're in the 20 to 25 pound range of the 100 grams over the 5 years. As an example, that's just an analogy. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Oliver?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Really appreciate that. Really, really interesting. I think you talked about the loss of the funds that were paid in America and what they were used for, and just I think from my last call that we had, the logic of just all this money sitting in between transfer between countries, and just the sheer volume of that funds and how that will create massive liquidity. But I think today is just the logic that how everything can be accountable, and this amount of money that's just sitting there, and then and never really aligned figures with the time. I think that's a really nice way of doing it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It just totally. It's a year is something you can kind of get your head around, whereas a series of zeros just is not
nothing
tangible.
So what would you like to hear more about for the next call?
I mean, to some extent, I could probably research it myself and maybe better use your support in different ways. But I mean, to some extent, just the baby steps of how to get it in, how to actually buy, create a wallet, where to create it, what to buy, how to start up, where to look, where to go, where to buy the trade, buy the coin from. I mean, literally, I just don't know any of that. So that would be interesting. But then also your more open, wider, greater perspective views are also more also really enjoyable.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for that, Oliver. Jen?
What were the questions again? What did I get from it, and what would I like to know more about? Was that it?
How did you find it? What did you learn from it that was the biggest takeaway for you, and what would you love to know more about?
Well, all of it really was an eye-opening for me, because I didn't know much about it. I knew blockchain existed, and I'd heard of cryptocurrency, but I didn't know how it worked. So that was an interesting insight into how that technology works and the potential that it's got. And really, in terms of more, I think what Alex and Ollie said as well, just the same as them, really, just about.
So coins and the practicals.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And also maybe what the potential other uses of it could be as well, if that makes sense.
Were you available at the beginning when I was speaking with Misha, and I was talking about the contracts, and everything else.
Yes.
Okay,
so
because they're
the technology for the, I would say, international transfer of information and data.
yeah. And what I'll do is I'll pull something else together for like how it can be used. But like I said, that the use cases for it, verifying
But are
things.
there more, I think, is the question.
Say that again, sorry.
Are there more uses for it, I suppose, is the question.
Okay, cool. More uses. There will be. They're the ones that I've generally focused on. But I'll find. In fact, there's more I'm even thinking about now. So I will. We can pull that in as well. Brilliant. Thank you, Jem. Granny's gone. Bradley, you still with us?
Yeah, still with you.
Cool. How did you find that, man?
I thought it was really good. Really enjoyed conversations. I love the conversations about crypto just because it's been something I've been following for a couple of years now, coming up to 3 years now, really. But your analogies and comparisons, like with what's on the horizon, with how they're just throwing printing money out at the moment, and how like close we are sort of to the tipping point. I found that really interesting. And in terms of what I'd like to learn more about, sort of more conversations on specific coins, similar to Alex, really, where you think these projects could fit into sort of real life cases. It's a bit more into sort of like individual projects, probably, I'd say.
Yeah, there's some really exciting projects out there at the minute. In fact, one that's really interesting to look at, and this can answer your question, Jennifer, a little bit. Yeah, there's a token called BAT, which is Basic Attention Token. I'm using the BAT browser right now. So if you use Chrome, BAT was built on Chrome, so it looks just like Chrome, but they deal with all the tracking, all the no one sees anything. It's a privacy browser, but you've got a little sliding bar to say how many adverts you want, and every time someone serves you an advert, you just click close, but you get paid for receiving that advert, and that's why they call it basic attention. And it's basically, this whole idea about in the future there's going to be data brokers. So right now you go on a website and it says cookies, click accept, which basically means we're tracking you. And in the future, data is going to move from, right now your data gets bought and sold for thousands of pounds on the open markets and black markets. And in the future, you're going to own your data on the blockchain, and you can choose to sell your data and be paid for it. Or you might choose to say, Alex might come along and say, hey guys, I'll be your manager. Think of it like this, and I'll manage all of your data, and I'll go out there and I'll get the best price for it, and he'll get a cut. And that will all be done on blockchain as well. So when you use the BAT browser, if I'm watching a content creator, and it could be a blogger, a video person, I might be on, well, forget Facebook for now, but I'm viewing content from someone. If he's BAT registered, the browser will pop up and I can tip him. Now, I might only tip him 10 tokens, and those tokens might be worth, I don't know, 15p, let's say. But without that, for me to send him money, he'd have to have a PayPal button or Stripe integration, or he'd have to have some way for me to pay him. I'd have to click pay, put my details in, go through a process, verify who I am, like signing into PayPal, and pay him. But with BAT built into the browser, it can just go, I might be looking at one of Alex's videos one day and go, oh, I really like this guy. And then it says up here, and you know, you watch a video and it says, click here to subscribe, and comments down below. He might be like, and if you really like my content, you can tip me here. And a button will appear. And you click that button and you just sent him 14p. Because you're like, yeah, I'll give you 14p, just like a busker in the street. But Alex might have 10,000 viewers and he's being paid by all these people giving him what we call micropayments. And that, you could argue that that's a money thing, but there's a big difference between the $63 trillion that moves around the earth between banks and the 14 pence, 5 pence, 3 pence, 10 pence. We as consumers would pay to say thank you to somebody. And we can't do that today because at the minute it costs 30p-ish just to make a debit card transaction. So Alex isn't going to have an integration payment on there purely because he just wouldn't, it wouldn't be worth his while. So I hope, Jennifer's still there. So I hope that just kind of helps to give another example of how and where it would be used. Okay, and Bradley, you want to talk about more coins as well? That is cool. Misha has just left. That's who left. James, your audio still says connecting, so I don't know if, well, you won't be able to talk, definitely. I hope you've been able to hear us, James. I imagine you have, otherwise you would have probably left the call. I'm just checking if you messaged me. No. Okay, well, if you want to send us a voice note on what you enjoyed from the call and what you'd love to learn more about, send it to me on WhatsApp, and I'll take it from there. And Will, I'm going to guess that's Will Shepherd, because I just saw your face for a little bit. Oh no, Freddie first. Sorry, my apologies. I've missed you there, Freddie. Unmute. Freddie, you there?
Hi.
Hello, darling. So did you enjoy that? What did you take from it?
I am thoroughly enjoying it, but it's very new to me because it's not my world. I'm not in business. I'm I'm a pensioner. So, and I'm in debt. So this stuff makes me think about my own particular worries, and I will put together perhaps some questions for next time. But it is absolutely fascinating listening to all of you. You speak about some of it a bit fast for me, and I've been making notes so that I can research myself.
Yeah, like I said, it is a coffee percolator. Like you don't, anyone that starts looking at blockchain and says, I get it. I mean, you can just get it, but it's like, it's just, there's so many facets to it. And it's so emerging that if unless you're really young and really fastly into it, and you're being brought into that world, it can be a lot to take in.
It is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I can do it, and I'm fascinated. Yeah. And I'm really grateful to be on this line with you and listening to you and connecting with you, because my head was in a completely different place until I came on this call. Because
excellent.
I don't know, I hadn't entered the drama, but I was in another place called spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, looking at it from a different point of view. So now you've given me another aspect to look at, and I need to digest that now. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. And if you've got any questions, like we've got a WhatsApp group you can join as well, and you can post whatever questions you want in there. I'm not charging for any of this. I love it. Same as Bradley. Like once you get into it, well, it depends on your disposition, of course, but I thoroughly love it. I've been quite a tech person most of my life, and I followed it on and off, but probably at some point early last year, I really started to delve into it, and it's just all consuming now. So
I can see you love it.
Yeah. So just good. Let it all drop in, and it'll all start to make more and more sense. And where it doesn't, just ask a question. And if any of you guys are in the group and you want to answer it, the best way to learn is to teach. So if you answer the question, and if it's a bit wrong, it doesn't matter. Just someone else will tidy it up. Brilliant, right. Freddie. Thank you very much, darling. Misha.
Hi. My phone ran out of battery.
That's okay. Don't you worry about that. Blockchain can't help you with that.
Damn it. That's okay.
Okay, so we just.
With that.
It was. We're finished. You only left during the last bit anyway, so we're curious. What did you enjoy the most? What
I
did
was
you take
quite sad to leave. Then I was really getting into it.
Well, we're on questions at the end, so you didn't miss any context necessarily.
I think I got a lot from it. I think it's opened up a curiosity in me that I didn't know existed, and I guess when you're like thinking everybody's talking, you're like, I'll say all of that stuff, and now I forgot because I was doing.
Don't worry about it. It's cool. So what would you like to know more about?
Like before that, when I was in the kitchen and you were beginning, I was like, oh, this is definitely not for me. I don't even want to listen to this. Like, why am I here? And now I'm like, oh yeah, definitely want to be involved in the next Zoom. So that's good. I'd like to know more about how I could kind of put maybe, you know, a little bit of money into it, or, you know, a little bit, understand it a little bit more. And also a little bit confused the difference between it and cash. Is it going to be like, we're all going to be having Bitcoin or coins, or we're going to be cash and coins? And also, I guess, like, for the perspective of some people that I know maybe who have a lot of money, what does that mean for them?
When you say they have a lot of money, do you mean cash?
No, I mean like in their bank account.
Oh, okay. Okay, I understand. I will cover. I'm gonna have to. Things every day that moves, a lot's changing. So I will. I might do a video before then, but if not, I will. I'll try and do something for the next call for next Thursday, to try and answer that, because things are going to change. It's up to people to do whatever they want to do. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not a financial advisor. This is just my stuff that I've learned. I'm sharing my experience from it. I can't express enough to do your own research, or at least understand who you're handing over that decision-making process to do research. I try not to have biases. I'm just looking at things objectively. If I didn't think blockchain was going to be the future, and it was just a cool piece of technology, I'd say so. But I can't see any reason that it wouldn't be, and I can only see reasons it would be. So I'll try and answer that question in a video, Misha, so that you can at least give it to your friends. But definitely speak to them and ask them one question. Are they aware of blockchain? Are they aware of cryptocurrencies? If they're not, they really need to be, because you want your money in a store of value. And right now, the value of fiat currency, which is basically what we know of as cash, it's questionable if in a handful of years it will be worth the same amount of money. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's part speculation, part rooted and based on some pretty strong facts, but they need to do their research. So if they're sat on 10, 20, 100, 200 grand or more, well, if they're sat on more than 100 grand and it's in cash in the bank, they've probably already lost money, because the value of currencies dropped. I mean, the pound lost 8% the other day. So that means the money that you've got in the bank globally is worth 8% less now. That's a decent drop. Bearing in mind that we've only been getting an interest rate in the bank of like, what, I don't know, what, 1%, 0.5% at that. And interest rates just got cut to 0.1 today. So if the price of inflation around the world is greater than 0.1, which it is, I think average inflation is at like 3%, then every year they're losing money. Still got the same amount of money in the bank, but it's worth less. So definitely pass over that information to them, because we all really need to start to think about that. Money in the bank is not a safe store of value. So you put your money in something that's going to hold its value or appreciate in value. Leaving it in the bank is not a safe option.
Cool. So would that be like also like houses, or?
A house is a store of value. So you can't, you know, the house is fixed and it's worth some money. But then if the housing market crashed, then you've lost some money. So all assets can appreciate and depreciate, but holding your money in a property is a store of value. You've stored it. Buying gold is a store of value. Buying stocks, cryptocurrencies is a store of value. Otherwise, it's liquid cash, which is not a store of value, or it can depreciate over time. Depends on where it's stored. I hope it's a big conversation in like 2 minutes, but I hope that makes sense. Like I said, I want to make sure that people leave with knowing that you can open an account for cryptos in no time and put something in it. Like literally, you can just put £1 in if you want. Well, probably a bit more than £1, £5. As long as you can get the money on there quick enough, cheap enough, then you just transfer it to something and just let it sit. So speak to your friends and ask them, do they understand what blockchain is? Do they understand cryptocurrencies? Have they got any? And if they're like, oh, I'm not bothered about that stuff, please, I encourage you to tell them to be bothered. Okay?
Okay, thanks, man.
Cool. Cheers, Misha. And Will, I'm going to mute you. Do you want to say hello? I think you caught the back end of it, though.
Yeah, hi. I just arrived. I just saw you post on Facebook just now and arrived at the questions. So I missed most of your talk, but it's really fascinating hearing everybody's comments to what went on. So I'll definitely sign up to the WhatsApp group and join on the next meeting if that's all right.
Cool. Well, I recorded this, so I'll be posting this on
Fantastic.
somewhere that's not for I don't know what I'll do with it yet. I got everyone's permission at the beginning, so you can at least watch this call back again. Okay.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Cool.
Thanks.
And we're back on again next week on Thursday. I'll try and send invites about a bit earlier, but try and sign up. There'll be a new sign up link next week, so it'll be a bit easier to manage. All right. Nice to see you.
Look forward to
your voice, brother.
Cheers, man. Bye.
All right, everybody. So thank you very much. This has been our very first Future Leaders Today call. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you very much for being really good participants. Bring your questions next week, but I'm pretty much going to cover conversations around coins, easy, simple processes to open up your wallets. And what I'll do between now and then is I'm going to send you a list of 5 or 6 things you can do to be ready for next week. Very easy stuff. Like, honestly, just take each step as it comes. Even you, Freddie, just follow the process, and then at least you can open up a wallet and have it ready so that if you wanted to buy some currency, you can. You don't have to do though, but even just the process of sending some cryptocurrency from A to B is an interesting process. I remember the first time I did it, I crapped my pants because it's just so different. But once you get used to it, then it becomes familiar. So I want you all to at least be practically doing it. So by next week, I want you all to know how to open up wallets, and we can have conversations about coins, and this weird world of stuff starts to become a bit clearer. So my name is Daniel Henko, if you did not know, but I'm pretty certain all of you do know. Have a really nice evening. It's 10:30, 2 hours. Wow. All right. Take care, everyone, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.